So this is Danny J. Lewis, aka Enzyme Black, and I'm going to take you inside this track that I've signed to Fourth Floor Records. It's a track called I Can See the Light. So I'm going to let you hear some of this for the moment. You can see what's happening. Each of these building blocks, working the actual elements in the tune. Gradually new things are coming through here. Just going to enlarge this track so you can see the filter automation on this particular sound coming up. It's a synth, polysynth. The track's gradually evolving, just about to hit the point where the snare comes in very distinctive, literally on every beat and then stops. You see that now. Then a break, and then back again. So down here we got the track for the 909 open hat. That can start coming through, pick up the energy a bit in this section. So all very traditional at the moment. Let me take you inside some of this stuff. So let's have a look at the bass line. So if I bring the cursor back, let's have a listen to this in isolation. This is coming from a synthesizer called the Predator, and this is a very kind of old school analog style synth, but it actually does quite a lot more, but it has a great sound, great tone. So there's the bass line itself. I'll open this up so you can see that. So you can see the notes, different velocities here to introduce a bit of a more organic kind of flavor to the bass line. So let's take that off a solo. So this rising polysynth texture, this is created in something called Contact. Originally a sequential circuits Prophet sawtooth waveform. So this sampler, this is multi-samples all in here, so I could literally play back the keys as it was on the original synthesizer. Gradually the filter is changing. You can see this over here, the filter cutoff. Originally it was a lot lower, it's now gone bright. So that's that particular element. Let's take it off solo again. So that's me on vocals, and in order to create that texture, what I did was I recorded myself 4 times and I changed the pitch of the voices slightly to create that thick texture, and put some very, very heavy delay on there, reverb, a lot of processing going on. Let's take that off solo. So the track's gradually building. You've got the high string coming in now. I'll solo that. That's gated, so that's the chopping effect on there. That's coming from a synthesizer called the Vanguard, and you see over here the trance gate. This is chopping the actual sound rhythmically, so that's where you're getting that gated vibe on there, so that creates a nice interesting movement. Also there's some more vocals that are coming up here. Solo on these. Once again, that's me, several copies of myself, tracked, detuned, effected. There's a ride cymbal coming in here, 909 ride. So let's have a look at the individual elements on the drums. These are coming from something called Microtonic. I'm going to focus on this area here. Microtonic is an analog drum machine, so it's very much an old school kind of flavor in there. Let's have a listen to the kick. Nice and heavy, pretty much like the 909 kick. Then we've got a clave. I'll show you the patterns here. And I'll also bring to the foreground the Microtonic itself so you can see this. So there it is, you know, it's just 8 sounds, that's all it is, but each one is created using analog synthesis, either a synthesized waveform or white noise combining to make the sound. Rim shot, tom, and then a clap. So that's the main backbeat for the drums. You know, some of the additional elements like the 909 hats and stuff come in. Let's bring the bass back. And once again the polysynth. So let's start on this next bar cycle. So let's just quickly go and see that so we can see the filter coming up. So back into Contact. Let's open the polysynth. So follow my cursor here, look, see the filter frequency is started going up gradually. It's a low pass filter. It's gone back on the cycle though, so you can see we've gone back to the beginning of this section here, so I'm going to take that off. Let's take it back up to that point we saw before. So once again, coming up, filter rising, very classic effect used in club music. So that's rising up. So a few more things to point out. We've got a nice breakdown at bar 97. Let's bring all the elements back for the moment. So bar 97, there's a very heavy snare hitting on the one there, snare roll into the drop and then back. One of the things I'll point out is the hi-hat here, right? Look, listen to that. So you've got a closed hat and an open hat, and what's happening there is it's creating this nice kind of tight, tense kind of a vibe there, but then it opens up and it goes back to the tight one again. So it creates a really interesting contrast in the track, almost subliminal when the track's playing. So here's another distinctive element of the tune, this snare drum. We're coming up to that, you can see it again, literally hits on the one, adds a lot of energy to the track. And also the brass stab as well, we just went past that. Start to gradually build all these elements up till we get to the point where 2/3 of the way in we've got a very traditional breakdown section. So the strings are back, brass stabs are more intense now, and then we head to the section where the saxophone comes in. So just simply being triggered. It's an old saxophone sample, single hits, proper old school sampling style, and then gradually we build up the tension with another saxophone. If you listen to that carefully, you hear that tiny little loop section on the end. That section loops down into the breakdown, filtering the other saxophone down, and now taking that one with the loop section on it, filtering that down. So what happens is we build up, and I'm going to show you a couple of interesting elements here. What I've got is a snare drum that's flanging, so if I highlight this for you, and I'm going to solo that, and you can check it out. Bring up the mixer. Can you see this coming up with the automation? On the actual channel we've got a flanger here, and also we've got panning left and right. That's coming from the auto pan. So that creates a really interesting vibe as it gets to the main highlight of the track. And this breakdown here, I'll show you. If we go through there, after that snare roll there's another one, but what I do here is that I transpose the pitch. So if you have a listen to this, let's take it back a bit. So coming into this section here, here's a snare drum. So that's taking the actual pitch of the microtonic snare and increasing that. So let me find that for you. So it's one of these guys along here, just going through the actual drum cells, and somewhere over here, yeah, it's got the snare drum. So watch what happens if I take that back. Let's have a look. Let's bring the microtonic back in. It's this one over here. So let me take that back for you. So watch. You see here the pitch falling on the oscillator. So I'll take it back for you, and you can see that happening. So once again, oscillator frequency, watch it go up. That's the increased tension on the actual snare roll there. And it starts on this way down. So if I take that out, we come back, you're going to hear the flanging. Snare roll coming through, then followed up with a pitch shifting snare roll. Vocals gradually coming up, you can see that. And then there's a mad synthesizer stab as well, really adds attention. That's coming from the vanguard. So you can hear the flanging snares coming up. Big snare roll, rising in pitch. So then we're back in there. That bit totally destroys the dance floor every time. Back with the saxophone. So there's an insight into how the track was made, and you'll be able to hear that. Check it out. Forthcoming on Fourth Floor Records.